So, hi everyone. Sweet to connect with you here by video. I hope you're well wherever you are in the world. And yeah, I really want to share from my heart or on a subject that's close to my heart. And I hope I can do it eloquently. And I hope you can journey with me and listen just through your whole body. You can even close your eyes as you're listening. Let words come in and go. Let them touch your inner space or not. And yeah, we can just take a moment actually just to ground a little bit into silence together. Those of you that journey with me know that that is where we always start. That is our beloved home base. So yeah, just take a moment just to resource what is calm and still inside or around your body. Or let silence meet you wherever you are. Just take a moment to be intimate with that calm or quiet silence. And just really welcoming whatever you're feeling in your body right now, the sensations you're feeling, any mood or emotion that you're in right now, that you're feeling, ambiance to your inner space. Welcoming movements and sounds and vibrations, whether they're being received in your inner space or from your environment around you. And thinking, welcoming thoughts. And thinking. So all inclusion, like inclusivity, is one of the principles that I journey with. Um, Welcoming every layer, every sensation, feeling it, tasting it, and then letting silence be the foundation for that deep listening and being with what it is that's calm or unmoving and unchanging. So from your inner space, as I start to share, you can listen and let your experience be primary and my sharing be secondary. Journey with yourself as your own guide as primary and my voice is secondary. I feel like the bridge between the deepest esoteric path and way, which historically has been a path that's been kept very hidden. If you look within every religion, there's an esoteric core that is lived and breathed and embodied by those in a monastic way, in a path of renunciation, removing themselves from the world, living in ashrams, living in temples. And one of the things that makes this time now in time so fascinating and so rich and powerful is the gap between the life of the esoterica and the life of the embodied being in the world is closing. And when I talk about being in the world, what comes with that is the drive for worldly success, ambition, abundance, family, having children, material gain, material, like a, intimate relationships, all the things in the manifest, can take on. The invitation now is for the manifest world to really take on the properties of true nature and come into full expression. And so we're not really bound by these traditions and laws. I mean, some of you may be, I don't know what all of your paths are like and where, what you feel bound to. But I would say that the freedom of these times is that the mystical adept is very free to incorporate what is discovered and unearthed through the inner journey and bring that into the world how they see fit. And we're not bound to secrecy or bound to hierarchical structures of initiation. But I would say there is one law that we may not believe we're bound to, and I wouldn't use the word bind either, but there is a law and there is an order and a natural way to things. And it's very important to me personally to live in alignment with this cosmic law and order. And a common word for this cosmic order, particularly drawn from the Buddhist tradition, is Dharma, and it's also a word used in Hindu culture too. So Dharma is the concept of the natural way and order of things. So everything has its natural place within the whole, and when everything is living according to its naturalness and being deeply itself, as it was born to be, there is a harmony within the whole. So it's a very pure concept. It's not to be taken and twisted, and it's not to justify the oppression of people. It's not about slavery. It's not about it's not spiritual conditioning. It's something that each being has to discover through this journey of knowing who we are, like the journey of understanding, self-understanding. So I would say my Dharma is very strong. My experience of Dharma is very prominent and central to my life, but I wouldn't have had that name for it in my life because what I recognized was my drive ever since I was, you know, really young, was to know myself more deeply. Like I had this drive. It was incessant, and it took me into some very uh you know, obscure situations. You know, I renounced a way of life for another way of life, and that took me into a very underworld, underground. For example, when I left school, I went into a very underground music scene, and I can tell that that movement, you know, I was really searching for who am I beyond the social conditioning of what I've known myself to be and my upbringing and my society and what is around my immediate environment. And so I plunged into the total polarity of that, um and I found, you know, a lot of you know, I then was driven into a 3-year study degree, university degree, and it was all focused on studying mystical faith and you know, the esoteric elements of religion, Sufism, Buddhism, um, shamanism. I really dove deeply into the text describing shamanic initiation because I wanted to understand my own experiences, and I found a lot of kinship in these writings and anthropological studies and in the poems of Rumi and Hafiz, and I even studied Sanskrit, and you know, it was really like my way of my initial beginning of that Dharma, you know, trying to understand and know myself. That felt like my Dharma, but I didn't even have that concept was, you know, at that point just academic, you know. So I think it's really powerful. Like I'm sharing my story, but if you just take a moment to reflect upon what has driven you, if you let go of all the kind of where you've arrived to now, you know, but if you feel into what drove you to do the things you've done in your life, you know, even the challenging things, even the things that didn't work out for you, even the marriage that went wrong, you know, and feel what is it within that, where was the Dharma within that, where was there a um or where was the Dharma trying to peek through? So even if there wasn't a harmony, or even if you were kind of manifesting a life experience that really wasn't healthy or good for you and your soul and your being, something took you into that scenario, and underlying it, you can probably start to feel this common thread, you know? So for me, it was like knowing myself deeply, like if I could just put it in simple terms, you know. So no wonder I dove into the sort of underground trance scene of London at 18, and actually I was younger than that, and I you know, looking back, it was an incredibly hedonistic environment and incredibly destructive too on some levels, but there was also it was a very it fast tracked the process of dismantling conditioning and conformity. So um, I feel like it's really powerful if you just take a journey now as you're listening, just feel back into your first movements in your youth and where that took you. And I think I went round the world 3 times. pretty much, like around the world. I mean, I traveled a lot, 3 times. And if I think, well, what drove me, apart from the obvious adventure and fun, but if I really think about it, particularly the kind of places that I went to and the things that I did, and what was really happening for me was I was driven to foreign lands, exotic places, everything that was not what I had known myself to be. It was everything but that. And so it was this incredible, it took me into this state of uh I really end up becoming quite gypsy. Actually, my life was incredibly transitional. Like, I didn't put roots down, I just kept moving and changing, and it was like allowing the things that were fixed about me to start to break down, because I wasn't building upon them. I wasn't like, and so that matches what I experience my Dharma to be ultimately. And I feel that my Dharma is very geared towards self-realization and the journey of knowing, remembering my true nature, and through through a journey of descent, ultimately. And so if I look at the journey of my life, I can see this common thread. I was searching to know who I am at the deepest level of myself, and I took myself into extreme situations that were going to break down what I thought I was, push my edges, and invite a whole new experience of me, myself, reality. And eventually, the need to do that, like as a movement in the world, exhausted itself. And I started to stop moving around, and I started living more permanently on my home island, which to me as an environment matched the way in which the Dharma wants to express through me. So through this journey, what happens is whatever your journey is, you'll see you start to know yourself. You start to know yourself in ways, what it is that makes you uniquely you. Uniqueness is existence needs you uniquely as you are. Like, no one can move like you. No one can find God like you find God. There'll be others that do it the way you do it, and you could call that lineage, and you can call that resonance, and you can discover many names for what that is and feels like soul family. But your role within that soul family will be unique even within that constellation. So finding that journey of discovery will lead you to what felt like my land, like what is the land that matches that frequency within myself. So for me, my home island, coming back to it, was really foundational, because she's a hidden kind of speck. She's called the Black Pearl in the middle of the Mediterranean Ocean. She's invisible, she's out of time. She's steeped in mystery. She's prehistoric. And embedded within the center of her is the Lake of Venus. And without any heady process, prior to any spiritual conditioning, that can form as you kind of start to find your way, any ideas of self or self-image, I knew I needed to live by this lake. And So I'm describing my journey of discovering, of becoming one with my unique nature and living and being in the world that um, allows that to flourish and empowers that naturalness, that natural order within me to flourish. And so the thing I want to share about is, firstly, you can just journey through your life and see what is it that's driven you, what has been like the common thread, even in the off-roading, the moments where you're really off-roading from something fulfilling in your life, like marrying the wrong man, for example. And see if you can see within all of it, when you broke up with that man, let's say you married the wrong guy. When you broke up with that guy, what did you discover? What did you gain back? Like, if it wasn't the marriage for you, or what was the fruit, what happened in that marriage is clearly yours to live and do, that no one else can do as you do. It could have been having your children. I feel like it's really, really profound to recognize there's no hierarchy of experience, which I know isn't just something we can, we have to dismantle hierarchy of experience, but you know, for example, if someone's living their Dharma, I went out with a guy when I was 18, a beautiful guy, and he was a dustbin man, and he loved his job. Like, he was so into what he did, and him and his friend, they had this big truck, and they would go around their local village, and they were just, it was like he no one did it like he did it, and it was not oppressive at all. Like, he was, for me, being a dustbin man would be like hell. I just, even putting out my own trash, I like I'm like, you know I struggle to do that at the best of times. So, you know to him, it was just total, that was his thing, and he loved it, and he just loved it. And I just loved his freedom that he had around it, and he didn't need anything. That's what he did. He had no hierarchy of experience, no issues with that. And so, when someone's doing what it is they really love doing, it's just fulfilling. It's just fulfillment. And no one can do it. And if there's, the fulfillment will also be that there's creativity, right? So when you're doing it, it's creative, or the benefits for others is high. Dharma usually comes like innately built within it, is you're offering yourself in the way the world needs you to be. And there's like a natural order to that, it gives rise to a naturalness. And so yeah, so it's really important to understand, like, Dharma isn't about a career, it's not about like a job, it's the totality of who you are, from the way you are with your friends, from the way you are with your family, from the things you get into and do, what drives you, your highest principles, your values, like all of that is embedded within this cosmic order. And it all comes down to knowing yourself deeply and appreciating there's nothing you've done in your life that doesn't belong to that in some way, even if it's indirectly, even if it's removed from the Dharma, but it's within the spirit of trying to come back to the Dharma. So Yeah, I feel like it's a really important thing to understand, Dharma, because it shows you the intelligence of your life and the things that are happening, the challenges that you're faced with. But above all, one thing I would really like to say about it is that once you start to come into deep relationship with your Dharma, which is an effect of knowing yourself deeply and coming into um, a flourishment of your unique nature, um, the whole field of comparison, like competition, comparison, wanting to be like someone, can start to fall away into, okay, that's how that, like I was engaging with a really, really powerful woman in the last days. I would say powerful from, she's like, has a lot of worldly success. And I feel like she's really embodying Lakshmi. So the way she embodies Lakshmi looks really different to Lakshmi within myself. And meeting her was this sweet opportunity for me to tune into the way in which Lakshmi manifests through myself and what is where my strengths on or like what I've unlocked and what I haven't unlocked, and and really coming back to the uniqueness. So it wasn't about comparing or like trying to be like her and become like her and do what she's done in the world. It's like, what is that concept of worldly success within the vessel, the vehicle of Fleur and through the Dharma? And of course, there are some things to discover there for sure, but it's like this sweet opportunity to contemplate, a frequency or an energy, but within the Dharma, the order of you, and how that uniquely expresses through you. So, for example, there are things about my nature that are important for me to deeply honor and include whenever I'm contemplating, like worldly success or, um, you know, something along those lines. So one thing that's very important for me is that I have um, embedded deeply in my nature a lot of invisibility, and the hidden esoteric path is very strong in me. I have my Ketu, if any of you are into astrology, you can see it in my astrology. I have Jupiter in Scorpio. I have my South Node in the 6th house, my North Node in the 12th house, and my South Node's in the 6th house in Sagittarius, and it's sitting at, it's in a nakshatra called Mula, which means root. So it's going to the root of everything, the hidden, unseen, the root. It's Kali, the root of all things. So and it's not just that dimension of the astrology. I could talk about it in many ways, but it feels important to be honored, which doesn't mean I can't be visible, be seen, but my way and those who I do it with, we have embedded within us this incredible depth and tendency to depth, and having our fingers on the pulse of the most esoteric dimensions of creation. And that's our Dharma to do so. Otherwise, this wouldn't be the makeup of my existence within me, So knowing myself deeply gives me a lot of context for what comes my way, what doesn't, and the way in which things come. So, obviously nothing is fixed. I'm not talking about building conclusions about yourself. It doesn't mean if you have a lot of invisibility, you can't become famous, but it's likely your drive for that will be quite low, because there's a power that belongs to you that likes to stay hidden. and I'm not talking about hidden, like this is just my example, right? I'm not talking about being hidden as in, like bypassing being seen or the fear of being seen. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the kind of a life, an innate capacity and an innate tendency to be steeped in the unseen mysteries, and that's where my joy, my love, my I mean, if you give me the choice between I can tell you with profound honesty, if you give me two options, here's the option for worldly success, and here's the option to just die continually into God. I will die continually into God. If that looks like burgeoning into worldly success, I'm delighted. But I don't, my drive for God as a is primary. And I'm not saying the two are mutually exclusive either. But I can see the way I've lived my life. I live on a remote island in the middle of nowhere. I have more animals around me than humans sometimes. I work, a huge amount online, and I'm very, very happy. um, and my home is really primordial. So there are a lot of things you can see about, I've spent my life traveling the world in remote places, with indigenous tribes, people that are hidden, people that are, like I can see it, the teachers that I'm drawn to, they're not, world gurus. Then I'm just not interested in the public faces because they're not actually magnetizing me. Who magnetize me are people who are actually quietly bringing in the hidden depths in ways, in extraordinary ways. So, yeah, and so I think my point in sharing all this is not to start going into a dialogue around, there's either one thing or another, worldly success or hidden depths and all that. My point of sharing my example is that knowing yourself deeply is you're here to do you. So you need to know what that is, and you want to come into deep intimacy with that. And so the fulfillment and then the unrecognized, the uncharted potential can unlock, but from that seed of deep inner knowing and deep inner peace with that knowing. And then there can be, a reaching into the uncharted potential. Then there can be, I've had many times where God has turned around to me within myself and said, yes, that's beautiful what you are. Like, but don't you want to know me? You know, don't you want to know who you are beyond what you are? Like the invitation to surrender however I've known myself to be. But that's still the same drive, right? I'm still running along that Dharma, like that's never ending. It's like a bottomless well. So I think just wanting to bring this back to a dialogue that might feel relatable for you. I don't want to focus on my story. I just invite you to feel into the common thread through your life. What is it that drives you? Like what are your principles? Like what do you value? Understanding your Dharma is like, for me, the highest value is liberation from suffering, or liberation is the highest value. And so truth is of higher value to me than pretty much anything else. And like truth is a direct experience, as a direct perception, truth that liberates, truth that is sitting at the seed of the mind, of the heart, of the body. Truth as the emanation of the essence of your being, and the flourishment of the essence of your being. Um, but the way that looks within the vehicle of Fleur will look really different within the vehicle of someone that has within their uniqueness different superpowers, different they've lived different experiences that have pushed them into different ways of expressing that uniqueness, and that's their responding, like existence needing them to be that way. And so the Dharma, that's the natural order, that's the Dharma. So feeling into those threads, what it is that you value deeply, what is driving you, who you're magnetized towards, when you see something that feels a bit different flavored, rather than focusing, like comparing. There's no hierarchy of experience. There's an opportunity to come back to what is unique and distinct about what you're doing and the way you're doing it. Whenever I am in that contemplation, I find myself with a spider on my body, or like I walk into a big spider's web. Or the other day, and I'll explain why. The other day I was in this contemplation, and I have a very rare spider in my house. That rare because nobody else seems to have this type of spider. In fact, apparently I'm the only one with this spider, and they're about this big, and they're flat, and they just sit on the wall. And then every year they have babies, and I adore them. And they've lived in my house with me for 7 years. And I just love them. They're harmless. They never move. They're just flat on the wall. See if I can find one in a minute to show you. Anyway, so my friend Anselmo, he wanted one. He was like, "I just love your spider, and I just would really love one. And you seem to have a lot of them." So I gave him one. And this was 2 years ago, and the spider just disappeared. And I was really upset because, I was like, my spider got eaten or something happened. And well, I wasn't that upset, but I was kind of like, I'm not going to do that again. And the other day I was at his house, and I was sharing with him a contemplation that I was in. And essentially my contemplation was this. It was about, what is it that I'm doing? What is the unique flavor of that? And what is wanting to be recognized within that in this moment? And I come back home, and I kind of felt like he hadn't heard me, my friend. So, maybe I realized maybe he wasn't the best person to talk about it. But then he calls me and he goes, "You won't believe it, but your spider just reappeared. It's just come out of nowhere." And he's huge, and he's grown, and he's got his own web behind this table. And he said, I'm really moved, like your conversation just feels really, this spider feels really connected to our conversation. And I just was like the heart medicine, I was just like, there's my baby. There's my Spidey. And just such heart medicine. And so for me, spider medicine has always been a reminder of origins. So knowing ourselves at the origin of who we are, because they're the weave, they're the weaver, the woven, and the weaving. They're making their own web. They're at the center of their creation, and then they live within their creation. So they're really that primordial remembering. And I think that's why people have such an archaic, archetypal terror of spiders, because they they are so representative of that primordial remembering, kind of like snakes, you know, they're really actually heart medicine. Spiders to me are real heart medicine. So um yeah. Hmm. So my intent for sharing this isn't, again, I really don't want it to be about focusing on me and what my Dharma is. I want it to be an offering for you to reflect upon Dharma. You can even look it up, the definitions of Dharma, and for you to feel into like letting go of the boxes that you might place that within, you know, like Dharma looks like this, or it's having a career, or it's doing this, like um you know, I can look at astrology and see what that looks like. So in my astrology chart, I can understand why my work is tied into my Dharma. You know, I have a lot of, you know, I have an exalted Mars and Sun in the 10th house in Aries, and then my Jupiter's in Scorpio, which is ruled by Mars. So, you know, clearly for me, my Dharma, the Dharma ruling planets and the Dharma ruling placements are very prominent. But everyone has dharma. Like it's not that someone has more dharma than someone else, you know. It's a bit like everyone has the capacity, you know, for worldly success, but some people it's going to be their dharma to talk about it, to be an emanation of it, to show everyone, hey, there's this thing here, like this is what it can look like, or this is the height of the potential, which is what I felt with this woman. And so then you want to contemplate whatever it is someone's modeling at you, and whatever their embodiment is showing you. You want to feel like, well, what does that look like within me? Like, what is that within me as a unique being? So it's a really fun theme. And if anyone would like to, you know, dive into this with me, I would be really open to do that via dual meditation. And we can also, yeah, like incorporate some other windows for the exploration, like your astrology chart. I'm not a professional astrologer, but I can, you know, use it in a light way just to encourage the dual meditation. And yeah, and just really kind of explore, um, you know, through your life's journey, and some key themes that have come for you, but really boil down when we're talking about Dharma, like take out the whole career thing, action in the world, and really boil it down to what is the fundamental essence of that Dharma for you as a living, breathing, cosmic way, you know. And yeah, so I hope this sharing has been of value to you. I would love to hear from any of you, and I guess Nanook enjoyed it, but I think Nanook's Dharma is just to be gorgeous. That's my it's my beautiful friend. Yeah, I'd love to hear from you, and hope you're all well, and yeah, send you a lot of love. Thank you for listening if you're still listening. And would just love to hear what this sharing has stirred for you. And yeah, take care. Much love.